Open! Lin Feng shouted. Immediately, the mysterious runes on the suppressive prison monument seemed to be activated. The stele suddenly opened, revealing a pitch-black entrance. A rich aura of small kiliocosm came from within. What? He opened the stele. The aura of small kiliocosm origin. What a rich aura of small kiliocosm origin. Damn it! How did he comprehend that stele? Does that mean we have no chance at all? The 3-8 Cataclysm Kiliocosm Sovereign's expressions were very dark when they saw that Lin Feng had really opened the stele. Their original goal was that stele, especially the mysteries of spacetime contained in that stele. But from the looks of it, Lin Feng had gotten there first and completely comprehended the mysteries of the stele. Actually, on second thought, this was not too unexpected. The stele contained the mysteries of spacetime, and Lin Feng had long understood the principle of spacetime. Wasn't it only natural for him to analyze the contents of the stele and even obtain its mysteries? It was just that the 3-8 Cataclysm Kiliocosm Sovereigns were a little unwilling to accept it. Forget it. Forget it. Let's leave. The 3-8 Cataclysm Kiliocosm Sovereigns were already thinking of leaving. However, at this moment, a terrifying aura suddenly erupted from the stele. It swept out like a surging torrent, instantly filling the entire space. What? Even Lin Feng was very surprised. His heart skipped a beat, and he immediately became vigilant. The power of that aura made Lin Feng's heart palpitate. Even when facing 3-8 Cataclysm Kiliocosm Sovereigns, he did not seem to feel such trepidation. Buzz. Ripples appeared in the suppressive prison monument. Finally, an infinitely huge figure appeared in front of everyone. Seeing this figure emitting a mighty and terrifying aura, everyone's eyes widened. Celestial Devil. It's actually a celestial devil. Lin Feng was very shocked and could not help but exclaim. He had seen only too many celestial devils, but in the medium kiliocosm, even celestial devils were in captivity. How could one appear here? It's an ancestral devil and a very powerful one at that. It even has an aura slightly stronger than the 8 Cataclysm Kiliocosm Sovereign. What kind of ancestral devil is this? Lin Feng ultimately had too little contact with the ancestral devils, and the ancestral devils had always been confined. Hence, he did not know the realm of this ancestral devil in front of him at all. On the other hand, Kiliocosm Sovereign Dark Chasm and the other 2 8 Cataclysm Kiliocosm Sovereigns seemed to have thought of something. You are the supreme king of all devils among the ancestral devils. The primordial devil? Kiliocosm Sovereign Dark Chasm could not help but ask. Oh? I didn't expect someone to still remember me. The ancestral devil opened his eyes and said expressionlessly. However, his gaze was very calm, not wavering in the least. There was neither joy nor fear. There was only calmness, as still as stagnant water. Kiliocosm's Sovereign Dark Chasm's expression was solemn as he said in a low voice, Primordial Devil, wasn't it rumored that you were imprisoned by the medium Kiliocosm Sovereigns? There are even rumors that you were killed. Why are you here? Lin Feng was also very curious. He had never heard of the Primordial Devil, but he knew that there was a rather powerful entity among the ancestral devils, second only to the medium Kiliocosm Sovereigns. The ancestral devils stopped before the medium Kiliocosm Sovereign. Before the medium Kiliocosm Sovereigns were born in the medium Kiliocosm, the ancestral devils could even compete and fight with the Kiliocosm Sovereigns. They even dared to fight with the cultivators in the myriad worlds. However, ever since medium Kiliocosm Sovereigns were born among the Kiliocosm Sovereigns, everything changed. No matter how strong the ancestral devils were, they were not comparable to the medium Kiliocosm Sovereigns. All of the ancestral devils were even suppressed and confined, and could only move in a very small area of the medium Kiliocosm. Lin Feng had always had a question. The medium Kiliocosm Sovereigns could kill the ancestral devils with a flick of their finger. So why did they leave the ancestral devils alive? This king of all devils in front of him was the source of all the celestial devils. Perhaps it could answer Lin Feng's doubts. The primordial devil glanced at Lin Feng. He also seemed a little surprised, but his expression remained calm. He said indifferently, You're the Kiliocosm Sovereign who opened the stele? You're actually still undergoing the 8th epical cataclysm. How impressive. You treat the 8th epical cataclysm like it's nothing. Looks like there's a chance for another medium kiliocosm sovereign to be born among you controllers. The primordial devil's expression was complicated. Back then, it was precisely because a medium kiliocosm sovereign was born among the controllers that the ancestral devils could no longer compete with the kiliocosm sovereigns for the hegemony of the medium kiliocosm. A single medium kiliocosm sovereign was enough to completely change the situation. Now, the kiliocosm sovereigns had already given rise to 3 medium kiliocosm sovereigns. The ancestral devils had long lost hope. Primordial devil, why are you here? Lin Feng did not let his guard down. Instead, he was very cautious. Why am I here? You should ask those 3 medium kiliocosm sovereigns of yours. All right, according to my agreement with the 3 medium kiliocosm sovereigns, you will obtain 100,000 portions of small kiliocosm origin. Prepare to receive them. With that, waves of fluctuations began to emanate from the primordial devil's body. Right on the heels of that, the aura on the primordial devil's body began to decline rapidly. His aura, which was once comparable to an 8 cataclysm kiliocosm sovereign, or even stronger than an 8 cataclysm kiliocosm sovereign, quickly declined. It fell all the way to a level only comparable to an ordinary 7 cataclysm kiliocosm sovereign. If he was not careful, it might even fall below the 7 cataclysm. So the small kiliocosm origin was obtained from you. Lin Feng's mouth fell open, as if he could not believe it. He had always thought that the small kiliocosm origin was plundered by the medium kiliocosm sovereigns from many small kiliocosms and accumulated over an epoch. But from the looks of it, that was not the case. The small kiliocosm origin actually appeared from the ancestral devil in front of him. Could ancestral devils produce small kiliocosm origin? Lin Feng could not believe it. He had never heard of ancestral devils being able to produce small kiliocosm origin. The primordial devil glanced at Lin Feng and said expressionlessly, "That's right. I'm the source of all the celestial devils. I was born with the power of destruction. All the celestial devils and all the ancestral devils are a part of me. I'm the king of all devils, the ultimate devil. But so what? I can even produce the small kiliocosm origin, but it will take countless years every time. Sometimes, I even have to devour some other ancestral devils to complete the mission given by the medium kiliocosm sovereigns. I'm reared in the medium kiliocosm. If one doesn't become a medium kiliocosm sovereign, they'll always remain an ant, and always be at the mercy of others." The primordial devil was filled with melancholy. He looked up in a certain direction in the void, as if he was looking at something. Lin Feng also understood. He understood completely. They were rearing ancestral devils. It turned out that the reason why the medium kiliocosm sovereigns did not kill all the ancestral devils was that they were rearing them. In particular, ancestral devils could produce small kiliocosm origin. In order to ensure that the source was sustainable, the medium kiliocosm sovereigns held the Myriad Origin Conference once every epoch. The small kiliocosm origin was taken from the primordial devil again and again, causing the primordial devil to completely lose hope. No matter how powerful the source was, so what? He did not even dare to resist now. Kiliocosm Sovereign Mythical Tree. I've already given the fated 100,000 portions of small kiliocosm origin according to your instructions. What happens next has nothing to do with me. Suddenly, the primordial devil spoke toward a certain direction in the void. Ha! Lin Feng frowned. He was slightly shocked and also looked up in a certain direction. He had already obtained 100,000 portions of small kiliocosm origin from the primordial devil. Including the small kiliocosm origin previously in his body, there were a total of 420,000 portions. This was a terrifying figure, even an astronomical figure. However, as time passed, the 8th epical cataclysm Lin Feng was passing was far more terrifying than he had imagined. Hence, he also consumed a large amount of small kiliocosm origin. It took at least 200,000 portions of small kiliocosm origin. However, after obtaining these 100,000 portions of small kiliocosm origin, no matter what, there was enough for Lin Feng to survive the 8th epical cataclysm. As soon as the primordial devil finished speaking, a hole suddenly ripped open in the void. Right on the heels of that, a tall figure appeared in the void. Lin Feng could not even see the exact appearance of this figure clearly. It was vague and seemed very blurry. There were halos of light around him that seemed to distort the vision, and he could not be seen clearly at all. However, the aura on this figure was incomparably familiar to Lin Feng. Kiliakosm, sovereign mythical tree. Lin Feng muttered softly. It was all too familiar. This name was familiar, and the aura on his figure was even more familiar. Back when he fought with Kiliakosm Sovereign Nonary Star, it was a medium Kiliakosm Sovereign who had killed Kiliakosm Sovereign Nonary Star with a single hand. The one who attacked back then should be Kiliakosm Sovereign Mythical Tree. However, Lin Feng had only seen a hand back then. Lin Feng had never seen Kiliakosm Sovereign Mythical Tree's true appearance. Now, Lin Feng finally saw Kiliakosm Sovereign Mythical Tree appear. As soon as he appeared, all the surrounding rules seemed to retreat at once. Only the rule of spacetime was unaffected, but it was still under extremely huge pressure. There was even a great terror in the depths of Lin Feng's heart. It was as if he had no chance at all when facing Kiliakosm Sovereign Mythical Tree. Even though he had the principle of spacetime, he was far from Kiliakosm Sovereign Mythical Tree's match. It was impossible for him to escape even if he wanted to. This was what it meant to be a medium Kiliakosm Sovereign. Without facing a medium Kiliakosm Sovereign head-on, one would never know how powerful the medium Kiliakosm Sovereign was. Greetings, Your Majesty, the Kiliakosm Sovereign Mythical Tree. Seeing this figure, the Kiliakosm Sovereign Dark Chasm, Kiliakosm Sovereign Skeleton, and Kiliakosm Sovereign Flora were all shocked. Kiliakosm Sovereign Mythical Tree was one of the three great medium Kiliakosm Sovereigns. He truly dominated the entire medium Kiliakosm. Moreover, the status of Kiliakosm Sovereign Mythical Tree was very special. He was the first medium Kiliakosm Sovereign among the Kiliakosm Sovereigns, and had fought with the primordial devil countless times back then. Later, it was only after he became a medium Kiliakosm Sovereign that Kiliakosm Sovereign Mythical Tree truly suppressed the ancestral devils, and completely established the foundation for the Kiliakosm Sovereigns to become the rulers of the medium Kiliakosm. Facing a medium Kiliakosm Sovereign, even 8 Cataclysm Kiliakosm Sovereigns like Kiliakosm Sovereign Dark Chasm, who were top entities among small Kiliakosm Sovereigns, had to bow their proud heads. Kiliakosm Sovereign Mythical Tree glanced at Kiliakosm Sovereign Dark Chasm and the others, but did not pay much attention to them. He was the oldest medium Kiliakosm Sovereign, and was already immeasurably ancient. Back then, he had even led many Kiliakosm Sovereigns to fight with the ancestral devils. Later on, he saw countless outstanding 8 Cataclysm Kiliakosm Sovereigns, but what was their outcome? Only 2 Kiliakosm Sovereigns eventually became medium Kiliakosm Sovereigns by chance. If one could not become a medium Kiliakosm Sovereign, they would always be insignificant. In fact, they would be annihilated in less than 9 epochs. The Myriad Origin Conference has ended. You may leave first. Kiliakosm Sovereign Mythical Tree's voice was magnificent, as if filled with infinite authority, echoing in everyone's ears. The 3 8 Cataclysm Kiliakosm Sovereigns also knew that they no longer had a chance. Now that Kiliakosm Sovereign Mythical Tree had spoken, they naturally had to obey. Hence, they all bowed and left this space. Buzz, buzz. Right on the heels of that, spatial ripples appeared in the void again. Immediately after, 2 similarly blurry figures whose exact appearances could not be seen appeared beside Kiliakosm Sovereign Mythical Tree. They were the other 2 great medium Kiliakosm Sovereigns, Kiliakosm Sovereign Xuanshang and Kiliakosm Sovereign Heart Illusion. If the other Kiliakosm Sovereigns learned of the gathering of the 3 great medium Kiliakosm Sovereigns, there was no knowing how huge a commotion it would cause. After all, the status of the medium Kiliakosm Sovereigns was extraordinary. Even a little action could be infinitely magnified. He really opened the steel? As expected, only the Chaos Kiliakosm Sovereign who has understood the principle of spacetime can truly analyze the contents of the steel. I hope we won't be disappointed this time. The 3 medium Kiliakosm Sovereigns communicated with each other through their thoughts. They had already informed all the Kiliakosm sovereigns that the Myriad Origin Conference had ended. Many Kiliakosm sovereigns began to leave the Beehive Forbidden Zone one after another. Lin Feng. Suddenly, Kiliakosm sovereign Mythical Tree spoke. Lin Feng's heart skipped a beat, but he also bowed slightly. With his current strength, he was far from capable of contending with the medium Kiliakosm sovereigns. So, he had to observe the necessary etiquette. Moreover, deep down, Lin Feng was actually very grateful and respectful towards the Kiliakosm sovereign Mythical Tree. He had actually benefited a lot from Kiliakosm sovereign Mythical Tree, directly or indirectly. For example, the Mythical Tree abode back then and Kiliakosm sovereign Nonary Star being killed the last time were both related to Kiliakosm sovereign Mythical Tree. Moreover, Kiliakosm sovereign Mythical Tree was the first medium Kiliakosm sovereign among the controllers. Back then, he led many controllers and fought a bloody battle with the ancestral devils, finally establishing the foundation for the controllers to become the dominating party. Hence, it would not be an exaggeration to call Kiliakosm sovereign Mythical Tree a pioneer. Lin Feng, I've actually been observing you for a while. In the Troll Forbidden Zone of the medium Kiliakosm, the three of us medium Kiliakosm sovereigns were actually observing you, Kiliakosm sovereign Mythical Tree said directly. Lin Feng nodded. He had actually guessed it long ago. Thank you for your attention, Your Majesties the medium Kiliakosm sovereigns. Do you have any orders, Your Majesties the Kiliakosm sovereigns? Lin Feng asked directly. He knew that the three medium Kiliakosm sovereigns had not appeared together just to chat with him. There must be something important. Moreover, it was very likely because of the principle of spacetime. Chaos Kiliakosm sovereign. There's no need to be nervous. The three of us are not here because we covet your principle of spacetime. In reality, once one becomes a medium Kiliakosm sovereign, they'll naturally be involved with the principle of spacetime to some extent. It's just comprehending it depends on oneself. Even if you demonstrate the principle of spacetime in front of us, we won't gain much. Beside Kiliakosm sovereign Mythical Tree, Kiliakosm sovereign Xianxia suddenly said. Lin Feng relaxed. As long as it was not for the principle of spacetime, he could rest assured. This was because although he had comprehended the principle of spacetime, he could not help others to comprehend it. Just as Kiliakosm sovereign Xianxia had said, comprehending the principle of spacetime depends on oneself. Lin Feng did not have any other good methods. He was just afraid that the three medium Kiliakosm sovereigns would coerce him to help them comprehend the principle of spacetime. Then, Lin Feng would not be able to satisfy the needs of the three medium Kiliakosm sovereigns. Lin Feng, the goal of our trip is this steel. Kiliakosm sovereign Mythical Tree suddenly spoke, and casually grabbed toward the steel. Boom! The entire space was shaking, and even the entire Beehive Forbidden Zone was shaking. However, the steel was really forcefully grabbed by Kiliakosm sovereign Mythical Tree. Lin Feng was very shocked. He had analyzed the contents of the steel, and knew that the stone tablet was the hub and the key core of the entire Beehive Forbidden Zone. Even he could forget about shaking the steel. Unexpectedly, Kiliakosm sovereign Mythical Tree easily moved the steel. Lin Feng could not help but think that the current Beehive Forbidden Zone was actually riddled with loopholes. It was no longer a terrifying spacetime prison. It was probably related to the steel being moved. I know that this steel is the key to the Beehive Forbidden Zone and the core hub. It also contains a trace of spacetime power. We can only forcefully open the steel. However, Chaos Kiliakosm Sovereign, you analyzed the content of the steel and opened it. We'd like to know what this steel is. Kiliakosm Sovereign Mythical Tree's expression also turned solemn as he stared intently at Lin Feng. The contents on the steel? Lin Feng fell silent. As expected, the three medium Kiliakosm sovereigns were here for the steel. The Myriad Origin Conference was even set up in the Beehive Forbidden Zone, so that they could completely understand the situation in the Beehive Forbidden Zone. The three medium Kiliakosm sovereigns did not coerce him, but even without coercion, just the three gazes on Lin Feng made Lin Feng feel immense pressure. After all, those were the three great medium Kiliakosm sovereigns, the true juggernauts of the entire medium Kiliakosm. Lin Feng knew that he could not conceal the answer to the entire question. Moreover, Lin Feng himself had many questions about the Beehive Forbidden Zone, and even about the legendary Great Kiliacosm or the Origin Realm. Hence, Lin Feng said directly, "I did analyze the contents of this stele. This stele is called the Suppressive Prison Monument, and the entire Beehive Forbidden Zone is actually a space-time prison, where all powerful entities are imprisoned. The Suppressive Prison Monument is the hub of the space-time prison, suppressing the entire space-time prison." Lin Feng explained almost everything he had learned from the stele. He even described the images that appeared in his mind in detail. Towards the end, the expressions of the three medium Kiliacosm sovereigns became even more solemn. Even though Lin Feng could not see their appearances clearly, he could still sense a trace of fluctuation on their bodies. This meant that the emotions of the three medium Kiliacosm sovereigns were also unstable, and they were vaguely a little agitated. So it's a space-time prison. Our previous hypotheses are all correct. That's right. The space-time prison suppresses some extremely vicious and powerful entities. It probably really came from the legendary Great Kiliacosm. Lin Feng also saw a door, or rather a passage. Perhaps that's the passage to the legendary Great Kiliacosm. The Great Kiliacosm we've been searching so hard for really exists. The three medium Kiliacosm sovereigns were very excited. From Lin Feng, they learned that a lot of their previous hypotheses had been confirmed. With their realm, they could naturally tell at a glance that Lin Feng was telling the truth. Even though it was just to verify some things, the three medium Kiliacosm sovereigns were very satisfied. When their hypotheses became reality, this meant that they could proceed to the next step. At this moment, Lin Feng could not help but ask, "Your Majesty, the Kiliacosm's sovereign mythical tree, does the Great Kiliacosm or the Origin Realm really exist?" Lin Feng's question made the three medium Kiliacosm sovereigns fall silent. Swoosh! Suddenly, the fog on the three medium Kiliacosm sovereigns completely disappeared. They revealed their true faces and appeared in Lin Feng's gaze. Unexpectedly, Kiliacosm's sovereign mythical tree of the three medium Kiliacosm sovereigns actually looked like an old man. The medium Kiliacosm sovereigns were undying and indestructible. They were not even plagued by the epical cataclysm. Whether they were old or young could be determined with a thought. In fact, appearance was just a preference of the Kiliacosm sovereigns. They could maintain any appearance they wanted. Clearly, Kiliacosm's sovereign mythical tree preferred his current appearance. Chaos Kiliacosm sovereign, your information is very important. As for your question, I can answer you. The Great Kiliacosm or the Realm of Origin definitely exists. Kiliacosm's sovereign mythical tree said very firmly. We have experienced countless epochs. In the medium Kiliacosm, we can no longer advance. You will never be able to understand the depth of the loneliness in our hearts. We are far from reaching the end of our cultivation. Comprehending space-time is the true destination. Only in the Great Kiliacosm or the Origin Realm can we find the destination. Hence, we have been collecting clues about the Origin Realm or the Great Kiliacosm for so many years. Now, we are finally certain. We are completely certain that there is really a Great Kiliacosm. Kiliacosm's sovereign mythical tree's words seemed to reveal infinite hardship. No one knew how much effort the three Kiliacosm sovereigns had put into this. Does the Great Kiliacosm contain the ultimate mystery of spacetime? Lin Feng muttered softly. That's right. If we're not wrong, Chaos Kiliacosm Sovereign, you must have obtained the spacetime imprint left behind by Dawn back then. Right? Kiliacosm's sovereign mythical tree's words shocked Lin Feng, and he was immediately jolted awake. The spacetime imprint was Lin Feng's secret. In fact, the matter of Dawn was the greatest secret in the depths of Lin Feng's heart. Lin Feng had never revealed it, even to the people closest to him. But now, how did Kiliacosm's sovereign mythical tree mention Dawn and the spacetime imprint at once? Your Majesties, how do you know about Dawn and the spacetime imprint? At this point, Lin Feng also discovered some clues. Haha, all controllers who obtain the spacetime imprint all treat it as their greatest secret. However, in reality, how many footprints has Dawn left behind? Not only has he occasionally left some traces in small Kiliacosms, He also left many traces even in the medium kiliocosm, such as the spacetime gate, the spacetime imprint, and so on. There are many of those. In the past, many outstanding kiliocosm sovereigns had all obtained spacetime imprints. They might have been very powerful and outstanding before becoming kiliocosm sovereigns, and some even cultivated all the way to the 7 cataclysm and the 8 cataclysm, and became hegemon-level experts. Unfortunately, not one of them could survive the 9th epical cataclysm to become a medium kiliocosm sovereign. Moreover, not one of them has comprehended the principle of spacetime. Actually, after we learned that you had comprehended the principle of spacetime, we already knew that you probably obtained the spacetime imprint left behind by Dawn, which is why you had the chance to comprehend the principle of spacetime. Lin Feng came to a realization and said, "I see." Lin Feng did not expect that there were actually so many of the spacetime imprint he viewed as his greatest secret. He was not the luckiest one. However, Lin Feng would not undervalue himself. Perhaps he was not the luckiest or the most special one, but he was destined to accomplish the greatest things, and had the greatest chance of becoming a medium kiliocosm sovereign. He was the first medium kiliocosm sovereign who had comprehended the principle of spacetime. Who exactly is Dawn? Lin Feng stared intently at the kiliocosm sovereign mythical tree and enunciated each word in a low voice. Dawn. Kiliocosm's sovereign mythical tree was silent for a while before saying faintly, "We don't know who Dawn is either. He seemed to have appeared out of thin air, but he also seems to appear beside us at any moment. I can already be considered a relatively ancient entity. Back when the ancestral devils were competing with us controllers, traces of Dawn had already appeared. However, he only left behind the spacetime gate and some spacetime imprints, and never showed up in person. Later, when we became medium kiliocosm sovereigns, we gradually realized that there might still be the great kiliocosm, or rather, the origin realm. That place contains the true mysteries of spacetime, and can allow one to attain true eternity. Perhaps Dawn is the top entity in the origin realm. He might even have grasped the mysteries of time, and can travel freely through the river of spacetime. He can leave traces behind in the past and the future." Lin Feng fell silent as well. Actually, his hypothesis regarding Dawn might even be more reliable than that of Kiliocosm Sovereign Mythical Tree and the others. It was all because he had comprehended the principle of spacetime through the spacetime gate, spacetime imprint, and so on left behind by Dawn. Although Lin Feng only had a rough understanding of the principle of spacetime, it did not stop him from guessing. Dawn was a spacetime traveler, which meant that Dawn could indeed travel freely in the river of spacetime. This kind of traveling was not as simple as Lin Feng's river of spacetime. Instead, it meant warping through the past, present, and future and completely integrating into them. Dawn did not actually exist in the past, present, or future. This was because he had completely transcended spacetime and was truly free and unfettered. Lin Feng did not know when he could become such an entity. Perhaps never. Dawn is too far away from us, but the great Kiliocosm or the origin realm are not that far from us. Chaos Kiliocosm Sovereign. Have you ever thought of entering the great Kiliocosm? Kiliocosm Sovereign Mythical Tree asked in a low voice. Enter the great Kiliocosm? Why do your majesties insist on entering the great Kiliocosm? Can't you cultivate in the medium Kiliocosm? Lin Feng asked instead. In reality, Lin Feng had always been wondering about this. Kiliocosm Sovereign Mythical Tree glanced at Lin Feng, then explained, Chaos Kiliocosm Sovereign, you have yet to become a medium Kiliocosm Sovereign, so you do not know what state a medium Kiliocosm Sovereign is in. In reality, we can no longer advance in the medium Kiliocosm, and this is all we can be for eternity. Although we are undying and indestructible, we cannot attain great liberation. Although there are no epical cataclysms, who can guarantee that the medium Kiliocosm will never be destroyed, and we will never fall? Only by transcending spacetime can we truly be free and unfettered. That is true eternity. No matter what kind of calamity descends, it will be useless. It's just like the principle of spacetime comprehended by the Chaos Kiliocosm Sovereign. Currently, the Chaos Kiliocosm Sovereign should also know that the principle of spacetime you've grasped should be a very basic principle of spacetime, right? At the very least, you can't truly be carefree and unfettered. Moreover, the principle of spacetime is closely related to your small kiliocosm. Once the force you withstand is too great, your small kiliocosm will collapse. How can this be considered true freedom? Only by entering the great kiliocosm or the origin realm, which contains a clear principle of spacetime, can there be a true method of transcendence. That is the true end point for all cultivation and all life forms. Hence, no matter what, we will try our best to enter the great kiliocosm or the origin realm at all costs. Kiliocosm sovereign mythical tree's words made Lin Feng fall silent. He understood what the kiliocosm sovereign mythical tree meant. In reality, Lin Feng did not have any confidence in comprehending the principle of spacetime to a deeper level in his current state. He did not even have a direction. This was not something that could be broken through with time. Without a certain amount of opportunities, even if Lin Feng had comprehended the principle of spacetime, this was all he could achieve, and he could not improve further. How could Lin Feng be willing to accept this? After pondering for a long time, Lin Feng asked in a low voice, "Your Majesties, have you grasped the method to enter the great kiliocosm? Or do you know how to enter the great kiliocosm?" This was the question Lin Feng wanted to ask the most. Hadn't the three medium kiliocosm sovereigns made all these arrangements in order to find the great kiliocosm? But have they really not grasped anything? Chaos kiliocosm sovereign. It's precisely because we haven't found the entrance to the great kiliocosm. Or rather, we don't have a way to enter the great kiliocosm at all. However, we already have a clue now. It's just that it's still unclear. Moreover, we really need the chaos kiliocosm sovereign's help. You need my help? Lin Feng was a little surprised. How could three dignified medium kiliocosm sovereigns need his help? We'll talk about the specific matters after the chaos kiliocosm sovereign completely survives the 8th epical cataclysm. We'll wait here. Kiliocosm sovereign mythical tree did not elaborate, so Lin Feng did not ask further. He was indeed undergoing the 8th epical cataclysm now. Even though he was very confident, it was not a good time to be distracted. Lin Feng had passed the 8th epical cataclysm so easily. It was simply unprecedented, and it would be very improbable for there to be someone like him in the future. This was the 8th epical cataclysm, not the 8th life transition. In every epical cataclysm, everyone had to be cautious. However, not only did Lin Feng comprehend the suppressive prison monument, he was even chatting with the three medium kiliocosm sovereigns. He could not be more relaxed. Time passed slowly. Lin Feng was confident that he could survive the 8th epical cataclysm, but he also needed time. 1 year, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. In the blink of an eye, decades had passed. Lin Feng's small kiliocosm had already expanded countless times. Moreover, the cataclysmic power of the epical cataclysm gradually began to weaken. Boom! The next moment, the cataclysmic power in Lin Feng's internal small kiliocosm was completely extinguished. Immediately, Lin Feng's small kiliocosm shook slightly, and then expanded at a terrifying speed. In the end, when the small kiliocosm completely stabilized, Lin Feng had one feeling, and that was strength. It was true invincible strength, and it felt like there was nothing he could not crush if he encountered the previous 3 8 cataclysm kiliocosm sovereigns again. Lin Feng could crush them directly. He would not even need to use the river of spacetime. However, the small kiliocosm origin that Lin Feng consumed was also very huge. In addition to the 100,000 portions of small kiliocosm origin from the suppressive prison monument previously, Lin Feng had as many as 420,000 portions of small kiliocosm origin on him. However, Lin Feng had invested a lot in surviving the 8th epical cataclysm this time. The amount of small kiliocosm origin he had consumed was simply innumerable. Lin Feng carefully counted his own small kiliocosm origin. There were only 160,000 portions left now. In other words, Lin Feng had spent a total of 260,000 portions of small kiliocosm origin in the 8th epical cataclysm. However, Lin Feng had also gained a lot from expending so much small kiliocosm origin. At the very least, the current Lin Feng had become a true 8 cataclysm kiliocosm sovereign, and truly stood at the peak of cultivation. The next step was the 9th epical cataclysm. If he succeeded, he might become a medium kiliocosm sovereign. Hence, Lin Feng was undoubtedly invincible among small kiliocosm sovereigns. It's over. Congratulations, Chaos Kiliocosm Sovereign, for successfully surviving the 8th epochal cataclysm and becoming an 8 cataclysm Kiliocosm Sovereign. Kiliocosm's sovereign mythical tree opened his eyes, and a smile appeared on his lips. I'm just a 8 cataclysm Kiliocosm Sovereign. I'm still very far from becoming a medium Kiliocosm Sovereign. Moreover, I may die to the 9th epochal cataclysm. Lin Feng also heaved a long sigh. Actually, he was not very proud. Back when he became a 4 cataclysm Kiliocosm Sovereign and a 7 cataclysm Overlord, Lin Feng was a little satisfied. However, the feeling of becoming a 8 cataclysm Kiliocosm Sovereign was actually very different. He could pass the 4th cataclysm and the 7th cataclysm safely without much urgency. However, the 8th cataclysm was different. Once he became an 8 cataclysm Kiliocosm Sovereign, he would have to face the 9th epochal cataclysm. Ever since the 3 medium Kiliocosm Sovereigns were born in the medium Kiliocosm, up until now, not a single medium Kiliocosm Sovereign had been born. Lin Feng believed that there must be a lot of 8 cataclysm Kiliocosm Sovereigns. After so many epochs, a total of more than 108 cataclysm Kiliocosm Sovereigns must have been born. But what was the outcome? Not a single medium Kiliocosm Sovereign had been born. In fact, now that he had become the 8 cataclysm Kiliocosm Sovereign, it was equivalent to a countdown to his death. With every day that passed, his lifespan would decrease. Hence, the 8 cataclysm Kiliocosm Sovereign was actually the most anxious, and was even less in the mood to participate in certain matters in the medium Kiliocosm. This was also why there were very few 8 cataclysm Kiliocosm Sovereigns in the medium Kiliocosm. It was because the 8 cataclysm Kiliocosm Sovereigns were all frantically plundering the small Kiliocosm origin. They were all frantically thinking of ways to become medium Kiliocosm Sovereigns. This was because once they failed, there would be no room for salvation. Only death awaited them. Chaos Kiliocosm Sovereign, if you don't want to undergo the 9th epochal cataclysm, who can force you? Kiliocosm Sovereign Mythical Tree suddenly said. Lin Feng could not help but be shocked. He understood what Kiliocosm Sovereign Mythical Tree meant. He was subtly referring to the fact that Lin Feng could rewind time. As long as he had sufficient small Kiliocosm origin, Lin Feng could even avoid the 9th epochal cataclysm forever. This was because rewinding time could allow his small Kiliocosm origin to never produce cataclysmic power and stay in an epoch forever. Even if 10 or even 100 epochs had passed in the outside world, Lin Feng could maintain it forever. As for the small Kiliocosm origin needed, Lin Feng had never heard of an 8 cataclysm Kiliocosm Sovereign lacking small Kiliocosm origin. Even the 3 8 cataclysm Kiliocosm Sovereigns who had fought with Lin Feng previously were not here for the small Kiliocosm origin, but for the suppressive prison monument. The 8 cataclysm Kiliocosm Sovereigns did not have to worry about not having small Kiliocosm origin. In reality, on careful thought, one could understand. All these years, the 3 great medium Kiliocosm Sovereigns had actually spared no effort to support the 8 cataclysm Kiliocosm Sovereigns. They wanted a 4th or even a 5th medium Kiliocosm Sovereign to be born. They were not stingy with the small Kiliocosm origin. Chaotic Kiliocosm Sovereign, you don't have to worry about the small Kiliocosm origin. Ordinary 8 cataclysm Kiliocosm Sovereigns only need more than 1,000,000 portions of small Kiliocosm origin to survive the 9th epochal cataclysm. Although this seems to be an astronomical figure, it's actually not worth mentioning to us. Even if the Chaos Kiliocosm Sovereign is a little special and requires at least 2 million or even 3 million portions of small Kiliocosm origin, the 3 of us can provide it. However, the key is that the 9th epochal cataclysm requires more than just small Kiliocosm origin. Kiliocosm Sovereign Mythical Tree spoke slowly. Lin Feng perked up when he heard this. In his current realm, what was the thing he needed the most and was of the utmost urgency? Without a doubt, it was experience regarding the 9th epochal cataclysm and becoming a medium Kiliocosm Sovereign. Without a doubt, these 3 medium Kiliocosm Sovereigns were the only ones with the highest authority. This was because the three of them had successfully survived the ninth epochal cataclysm and became the medium kiliocosm sovereigns. Please elaborate. Lin Feng bowed respectfully to the kiliocosm sovereign mythical tree. He knew very well how important this experience was. It was equally important to any 8 cataclysm kiliocosm sovereign. It's fine. We'll explain this general knowledge in detail to the other 8 cataclysm kiliocosm sovereigns. All we want is more medium kiliocosm sovereigns in the medium kiliocosm. If there's really a legendary great kiliocosm or origin realm, it won't be so easy to enter it. The medium kiliocosm sovereigns are only the rulers of the medium kiliocosm, not the rulers of the entire void. Not the rulers of the entire void? Lin Feng was slightly stunned when he heard this. In his impression, the medium kiliocosm sovereigns were the rulers of the world. Their word was law, and they were practically invincible. However, from what kiliocosm sovereign mythical tree had said, the 3 medium kiliocosm sovereigns did not seem to be invincible at all. As if sensing Lin Feng's confusion, kiliocosm sovereign mythical tree explained, "The void is the void, and the medium kiliocosm is the medium kiliocosm. If the void is like the sea, the medium kiliocosm is at most a small island in the sea, and a very, very small island at that. You should have heard that there are void life forms in the void." Lin Feng nodded and said, "I've indeed heard of void life forms, but they're very rare. Although they pose a threat to 1 and 2 cataclysm kiliocosm sovereigns, why would medium kiliocosm sovereigns be afraid of void life forms?" Lin Feng did not understand at all. There were indeed some void life forms, but they were not much of a threat to even kiliocosm sovereigns above the 4 cataclysm, much less medium kiliocosm sovereigns. Could there be more to it? Chaos kiliocosm sovereign. The size of the void far exceeds your imagination. The void life forms you've encountered or heard of are only a small portion of them, and they're basically very weak. The 3 of us often take action to clean up some powerful void life forms. Hence, you won't encounter void life forms that are too powerful near the medium kiliocosm. However, there are some void life forms among them that are comparable to medium kiliocosm sovereigns, or even stronger than the 3 of us. Those void life forms are also searching for the great kiliocosm, or the origin realm. With just the 3 of us, even if we discover the great kiliocosm, it won't be that easy to enter. Moreover, the medium kiliocosm isn't impregnable. The more medium kiliocosm sovereigns there are, the better. This is also why the 3 of us have been supporting the small kiliocosm sovereigns. The explanation from kiliocosm sovereign mythical tree was reasonable, and it also opened Lin Feng's horizons. He did not expect that there to be void life forms powerful enough to be comparable to medium kiliocosm sovereigns in the void. However, on careful thought, there was probably another reason the 3 medium kiliocosm sovereigns had not mentioned. It was that, essentially, a medium kiliocosm sovereign had no conflict with other medium kiliocosm sovereigns at all. The medium kiliocosm sovereigns were already undying and indestructible. They only wanted to enter the great kiliocosm. How could there be conflicts between them? It was precisely because there were no conflicts that the 3 medium kiliocosm sovereigns spared no effort to support the small kiliocosm sovereigns. They hoped that a 4th, 5th, or even more medium kiliocosm sovereigns could be born as soon as possible among the many small kiliocosm sovereigns. Chaos kiliocosm sovereign, grow quickly and strive to become the 4th medium kiliocosm sovereign. You possess the principle of spacetime, and are the controller with the greatest chance of becoming a medium kiliocosm sovereign after us. We are also looking forward to seeing you become a medium kiliocosm sovereign. That way, with your principle of spacetime, we may really be able to find the great kiliocosm soon. So, grow quickly. With that, the 3 medium kiliocosm sovereigns disappeared and left the Beehive Forbidden Zone. The 3 medium kiliocosm sovereigns had already disappeared. Lin Feng was slightly stunned. He originally wanted to ask about the spacetime prison, but he did not expect the 3 medium kiliocosm sovereigns to just disappear. Lin Feng did not know where the 3 medium kiliocosm sovereigns went, so he could only give up. Spacetime prison. Lin Feng had already survived the epochal cataclysm. He carefully checked the spacetime prison. Relying on his understanding of the suppressive prison monument, Lin Feng's understanding of the spacetime prison was probably deeper than the three medium kiliocosm sovereigns. Actually, the spacetime prison was a rare treasure. This was a prison that could truly suppress many powerful entities. Lin Feng was certain that even in the Great Kiliocosm or the Origin Realm, this spacetime prison was extraordinary. However, this prison was damaged. Perhaps it was because there was too little spacetime power. Even if some of the spaces here were static, spacetime power would still be exhausted. Moreover, some of them had been forcefully destroyed by the three medium kiliocosm sovereigns. This spacetime prison was already damaged. Even some 7 cataclysm kiliocosm sovereigns could leave the spacetime prison at will as long as they were not trapped in some special space. Of course, this also had to do with the fact that no one was controlling the spacetime prison. Otherwise, if someone could control the spacetime prison, even a damaged spacetime prison would be very extraordinary. It could actually easily trap 8 cataclysm kiliocosm sovereigns, and it might not be impossible to trap even medium kiliocosm sovereigns. Of course, he would have to give it a try personally to find out the exact details. The prerequisite was that Lin Feng could control the spacetime prison. I can give it a try. Lin Feng was really unwilling to give up just like that. He could already tell that there were no longer any suppressed monsters or experts in the spacetime prison. This was a prison filled with loopholes. However, once it was controlled and slightly repaired, it would still be an extremely powerful supreme treasure. This spacetime prison itself was the strongest supreme treasure. Unfortunately, even the three medium kiliocosm sovereigns did not discover this. Perhaps it was also related to the fact that they had not comprehended the principle of spacetime. Without the principle of spacetime, they had no intention of controlling this prison at all. However, Lin Feng could give it a try. Though, how should he control this spacetime prison? At this moment, Lin Feng could only try again and again. He did not have a good solution. Lin Feng thought of the suppressive prison monument. As the key to the hub of the spacetime prison, the suppressive prison monument could be said to be the ultimate center, the true core. It absolutely must not be damaged at all. But just now, the three medium kiliocosm sovereigns had actually damaged the suppressive prison monument. Swoosh! Lin Feng reached out and grabbed the steel. The already damaged suppressive prison monument could be held in his hand. Lin Feng sensed carefully. Relying on the suppressive prison monument, Lin Feng's mental power seemed to be able to scan through the entire spacetime prison. Lin Feng could see every space in the spacetime prison clearly. However, this was not the key. The key was that Lin Feng's spacetime power was being depleted rapidly. At the same time, Lin Feng gradually felt a ripple with the suppressive prison monument. He could even sense traces of the entire spacetime prison. I see. After an unknown period of time, Lin Feng's spacetime power was not infinite. It would also be depleted. Although a large amount of spacetime power had been depleted, by relying on the suppressive prison monument, Lin Feng had completely understood the mysteries of the spacetime prison. Retrieve! The next moment, Lin Feng left the spacetime prison. However, he grabbed with his hand, and the river of spacetime appeared. Moreover, it enveloped the massive spacetime prison majestically. Rumble! The spacetime prison was shaking violently. Lin Feng had never thought of destroying the spacetime prison. He was nurturing the spacetime prison with the river of spacetime. Moreover, according to the method on the suppressive prison monument, only spacetime power could activate and refine the spacetime prison. As expected, as the spacetime prison shook violently, it began to shrink rapidly. Lin Feng's spacetime power seeped into every corner of the spacetime prison. In particular, the suppressive prison monument had already been completely refined by Lin Feng with spacetime power. Buzz. Soon, the spacetime prison shrank to the size of a palm and landed in Lin Feng's hand. Looking at the spacetime prison in his hand, a satisfied smile appeared on Lin Feng's lips. For the spacetime prison to really work, it would require spacetime power. Although the current spacetime prison was still damaged, under Lin Feng's control, trapping 8 cataclysm kiliocosm sovereigns was almost a piece of cake. Moreover, it would continue to be nurtured over a long time in the river of spacetime. As long as it was repaired over a period of time, Lin Feng would not be surprised if it could even trap medium kiliocosm sovereigns. This was a top-notch supreme treasure that could make even medium kiliacosm sovereigns envious and jealous. However, this supreme treasure had fallen into Lin Feng's hands. Only in Lin Feng's hands could it unleash its true power. This was truly the strongest supreme treasure Lin Feng had obtained so far. If it's a complete spacetime prison, I wonder how powerful it will be? Lin Feng's heart burned with passion. If he could completely repair the spacetime prison, how strong would it be? Lin Feng no longer dared to imagine it. Putting away the spacetime prison, Lin Feng looked at the empty place where the spacetime prison used to be. A strange expression could not help but appear on his face. He remembered that he had once gone to the Troll Forbidden Zone. In the end, the Troll Forbidden Zone completely collapsed, and the Troll Forbidden Zone ceased to exist among the 10 Forbidden Zones. Now, he had also come to the Beehive Forbidden Zone. But now, the Beehive Forbidden Zone had also been retrieved by Lin Feng. The Beehive Forbidden Zone, the top of the 10 Forbidden Zones, had also disappeared. Lin Feng alone had made 2 Forbidden Zones disappear completely. There was probably no knowing what the other Kiliacosm sovereigns were discussing about it behind his back. The Terminator of Forbidden Zones? There were still 8 out of 10 Forbidden Zones left. Were those Forbidden Zones trembling? At this thought, Lin Feng could not help but smile in amusement. He put away the spacetime prison. With a flash of spacetime power, he warped spacetime and returned to the Chaos Dojo. As soon as he returned to the Chaos Dojo, Lin Feng began to order people to receive the dojos of the few 7 Cataclysm Kiliacosm sovereigns he had killed. How many small Kiliacosms must the dojos of several 7 Cataclysm Kiliacosm sovereigns possess? They were simply innumerable. Moreover, after becoming an 8 Cataclysm Kiliacosm sovereign, Lin Feng's deduction ability had increased greatly. He could even deduce tens of thousands of unclaimed small Kiliacosms. This was only in a very short period of time. If he took a little longer, it would not be a problem for Lin Feng to deduce 1 million or 10 million small Kiliacosms. The small Kiliacosms seemed infinite. Lin Feng finally understood why the 3 medium Kiliacosm sovereigns had said that 8 Cataclysm Kiliacosm sovereigns did not have to worry about obtaining small Kiliacosm origin. Just this terrifying deduction ability alone could allow them to obtain so many small Kiliacosms. Why would they need to worry about not having enough small Kiliacosm origin? Moreover, even if it was really not enough at that time, there was still the support of the Primordial Devil and the 3 medium Kiliacosm sovereigns. What Lin Feng needed to do now was to comprehend the principle of spacetime with all he had, or collect some information on becoming a medium Kiliacosm sovereign with all he had. Relying on the explanations of the 3 medium Kiliacosm sovereigns alone was far from enough. Lin Feng had to be more prepared. After all, Lin Feng did not want to use the principle of spacetime to avoid experiencing the 9th epical cataclysm. He also wanted to become a medium Kiliacosm sovereign. He also wanted to find the great Kiliacosm. He also wanted to comprehend the principle of spacetime completely and transcend spacetime to become truly free and unfettered. Your Majesty, Kiliacosm Sovereign Skyheart is here to visit. Lin Feng opened his eyes. Invite him in. Soon, Kiliacosm Sovereign Skyheart arrived at the hall. When he saw Lin Feng, his eyes also revealed shock. Chaos Kiliacosm Sovereign, you really survived the 8th epical cataclysm and became an 8 Cataclysm Kiliacosm Sovereign. How can it be fake? Lin Feng said with a smile. Kiliacosm Sovereign Skyheart was a little dazed. How long had it been? He was still a 5 Cataclysm Kiliacosm Sovereign, but Lin Feng was already standing at the peak of the Kiliacosm Sovereigns. He was almost an invincible Kiliacosm Sovereign. The reason why Kiliacosm Sovereign Skyheart came to visit this time was that there were rumors in the outside world that the Chaos Kiliacosm Sovereign Lin Feng had already survived the 8th epical cataclysm and become an invincible Kiliacosm Sovereign. It had to be known that before entering the Myriad Origin Conference, Lin Feng was only a 6 Cataclysm Kiliacosm Sovereign. One Myriad Origin Conference had caused Lin Feng to jump 2 levels at once and become an 8 Cataclysm Kiliacosm Sovereign. Who would believe it? Kiliacosm Sovereign Skyheart could not believe it. Hence, he specially came to visit and see Lin Feng's situation. Unexpectedly, the moment he saw him, he suffered a shock. Lin Feng was already a genuine 8-cataclysm Kiliacosm sovereign. Otherwise, why didn't the other 7 cataclysm or 8 cataclysm Kiliacosm sovereigns stop Lin Feng when he received the dojos of the few 7 cataclysm sovereigns he had killed? Only those in the circle above the 7 cataclysm Kiliacosm sovereigns knew how terrifying Lin Feng was at this moment. As soon as the 3 8 cataclysm Kiliacosm sovereigns who had surrounded Lin Feng in the Beehive Forbidden Zone came out, they immediately closed their dojos and refused all visitors. They even sent over a large amount of small Kiliacosm origin. Their attitude was obvious. They wanted Lin Feng to stop pursuing the matter. In the past, Lin Feng might have wanted to pursue the matter, or even kill them all. However, after becoming an 8 cataclysm Kiliacosm sovereign, Lin Feng had already realized that he really did not need small Kiliacosm origin anymore. What was the point of killing the 3 8 cataclysm Kiliacosm sovereigns? Moreover, 8 cataclysm Kiliacosm sovereigns were candidates for medium Kiliacosm sovereigns. Even if there was only a trace of hope, the 3 medium Kiliacosm sovereigns would not give it up. If Lin Feng were to try to kill all 3 8 cataclysm Kiliacosm sovereigns, the 3 medium Kiliacosm sovereigns would probably interfere as well. Lin Feng naturally gave up on pursuing the matter of the 3 8 cataclysm Kiliacosm sovereigns. He only had one thought now, and that was to survive the 9th epical cataclysm and become a medium Kiliacosm sovereign. After Kiliacosm sovereign Skyheart left, he did not say anything. However, Lin Feng knew that Kiliacosm sovereign Skyheart had recognized that he was ultimately not comparable to Lin Feng. The current Lin Feng had already become the strongest Kiliacosm sovereign in the medium Kiliacosm, second only to the 3 great medium Kiliacosm sovereigns. Every move from an expert with such an identity and status was extraordinary. Lin Feng actually knew Kiliacosm sovereign Skyheart's purpose for visiting. If Kiliacosm sovereign Skyheart wanted to become a 6 cataclysm Kiliacosm sovereign, it would actually be very difficult for him to do it alone. However, Lin Feng did not take the initiative to offer help. There were some things that Kiliacosm sovereign Skyheart had to rely on himself for. Otherwise, while Lin Feng could help Kiliacosm sovereign Skyheart to become a 6 cataclysm Kiliacosm sovereign, or even a 7 cataclysm Kiliacosm sovereign, what about the 8th or even 9th cataclysms? Once the 9th epical cataclysm really arrived, Kiliacosm sovereign Skyheart would definitely die. At Lin Feng's level, he already knew very well that the higher one climbed, and the faster they cultivated, the faster they would die. No matter how great Kiliacosm sovereign Skyheart's opportunities were, he would definitely die during the 9th epical cataclysm. Forget it. There's a friendship between us after all. Lin Feng instructed the Kiliacosm sovereign epic to prepare a fraction of the small Kiliacosm origin. When Kiliacosm sovereign Skyheart underwent the 6th epical cataclysm, if it was really not enough, he would get Kiliacosm sovereign epic to give it to Kiliacosm sovereign Skyheart. Lin Feng had already done his best to help Kiliacosm sovereign Skyheart when he needed it the most. In the end, one had to rely on themselves for cultivation. Time passed. As Lin Feng cultivated diligently in the Chaos Dojo, he practically never left the Chaos Dojo over so many years. He only nurtured the spacetime prison in the river of spacetime in his small Kiliacosm. Relying on the spacetime power in the river of spacetime, the spacetime prison was gradually nurtured to the extreme. Many minor damages were repaired, but some fundamental damages could not be repaired with spacetime power alone. Of course, as it was nurtured by spacetime power, the spacetime prison would only become stronger and stronger. Lin Feng did not know how strong it would be either. At the very least, he was not afraid of 8 cataclysm Kiliacosm sovereigns at all now. He might be able to suppress them at will. As for the medium Kiliacosm sovereigns, Lin Feng did not know if the current spacetime prison could trap them. Moreover, he did not know how strong the medium Kiliacosm sovereigns were. Lin Feng did not go anywhere. However, ever since he became an 8 cataclysm Kiliacosm sovereign, he had deduced countless small Kiliacosms, and sent people to occupy them one after another. After that, the small Kiliacosm origin delivered every year was almost astronomical. Only half an epoch might have passed now, and Lin Feng had already accumulated millions of portions of small Kiliacosm origin. In other words, if he survived the ninth epical cataclysm now, there was already no need to worry about insufficient small kiliacosm origin. He had already accumulated enough small kiliacosm origin. However, Lin Feng did not use the principle of spacetime to accelerate his small kiliacosm to quickly undergo the ninth epical cataclysm like before. It was because he knew very well that this time, things were different from before. Once he passed the ninth epical cataclysm, there would be an even more terrifying and urgent crisis, and that would be the metamorphosis of a small kiliacosm into a medium kiliacosm. Only when one's small kiliacosm metamorphosed into a medium kiliacosm could one become a medium kiliacosm sovereign. This process was irreversible. As soon as one survived the ninth epical cataclysm, the small kiliacosm would begin to undergo metamorphosis. The process of metamorphosis was undoubtedly dangerous and very much so. Perhaps more than 99% of the 8 cataclysm kiliacosm sovereigns had fallen in the end at this step. Their metamorphosis failed, so they naturally did not become medium kiliacosm sovereigns. Since the birth of the medium kiliacosm, there had only been 3 people who had successfully become medium kiliacosm sovereigns. It was obvious how low the success rate was. Even Lin Feng was not confident at all. He had yet to figure out what kind of mystery was contained in the metamorphosis of a small kiliacosm into a medium kiliacosm. Only after figuring this out would he undergo the ninth epical cataclysm. Otherwise, he would not even mind rewinding time so that the epical cataclysm would never happen in his small kiliacosm. With Lin Feng's current amount of small kiliacosm origin, he was entirely capable of avoiding the ninth epical cataclysm forever, as long as he wanted to. Hence, Lin Feng's current state was calmer than ever. In fact, he was not as impatient as the other 8 cataclysm kiliacosm sovereigns. The other 8 cataclysm kiliacosm sovereigns were all working hard to survive the ninth epical cataclysm, and all wanted to metamorphose into medium kiliacosm sovereigns. However, in reality, the success rate was too low. No 8 cataclysm kiliacosm sovereign was confident. Once the epical cataclysm arrived, only death awaited them. Chaos kiliacosm sovereign, half an epoch has already passed, but you're still so calm and composed, as expected of someone who has comprehended the principle of spacetime. I'm becoming more and more convinced that you have a high chance of becoming the 4th medium kiliacosm sovereign. Suddenly, a familiar voice sounded in Lin Feng's ear. Lin Feng opened his eyes and saw a figure condensing in front of him. Kiliacosm sovereign mythical tree. Lin Feng was a little surprised. He did not expect an esteemed medium kiliacosm sovereign to take the initiative to visit him. Lin Feng had not seen kiliacosm sovereign mythical tree again since their last encounter in the Beehive Forbidden Zone. Naturally, he did not come into contact with him much. He did not expect kiliacosm sovereign mythical tree to take the initiative to come looking for him now. Chaos kiliacosm sovereign, you were the one who took the Beehive Forbidden Zone, right? Huh. Lin Feng was a little surprised, but after hesitating for a while, he still nodded and said, "That's right. I took it. Only a kiliacosm sovereign who has comprehended the principle of spacetime can take the Beehive Forbidden Zone." "That's right. Actually, we also guessed back then that the Beehive Forbidden Zone is a true top-notch supreme treasure. Unfortunately, none of us could comprehend the principle of spacetime, and we've only dabbled in it a little. Naturally, we couldn't retrieve the Beehive Forbidden Zone. Since the Chaos Kiliacosm Sovereign can retrieve it, it's your opportunity. Don't worry, we won't snatch it. However, there's one thing that I'm afraid we'll have to ask the Chaos Kiliacosm Sovereign to try." Lin Feng's heart skipped a beat. He asked curiously, "What do you need me to try?" "Chaos Kiliacosm Sovereign, follow me." Soon, the figure of the Kiliacosm Sovereign mythical tree dissipated. He only left specific coordinates of a location for Lin Feng, and those were location coordinates in the void. "Do the 3 medium Kiliacosm sovereigns also need my help in the void?" Lin Feng muttered softly. He knew very well that the 3 medium Kiliacosm sovereigns actually thought very highly of him. In a situation where he was about to undergo the 9th epical cataclysm, the 3 medium Kiliacosm sovereigns would not disturb him under normal circumstances. But now, Kiliacosm Sovereign Mythical Tree had personally come to invite Lin Feng. Things were different. Could the three medium Kiliakosm sovereigns be in trouble? However, if the medium Kiliakosm sovereigns encountered trouble that they could not resolve, what was the use of Lin Feng going? All kinds of thoughts flashed through Lin Feng's mind, but in the end, he still decided to take a look. What was going on? He had been cultivating in seclusion in the Chaos Dojo. In reality, apart from nurturing the spacetime prison, it was not of much help to his surviving the 9th epical cataclysm and becoming a medium Kiliakosm sovereign. If one could become a medium Kiliakosm sovereign just by cultivating in seclusion, there was no knowing how many medium Kiliakosm sovereigns there would be in the medium Kiliakosm now. There would definitely be more than 3 of them. Hence, with a flash of spacetime power on Lin Feng's body, he disappeared from the Chaos Dojo. In the void, Kiliakosm sovereign mythical tree opened his eyes. Beside him were the Kiliakosm sovereign Xianxia and the Kiliakosm sovereign heart illusion. The 3 great medium Kiliakosm sovereigns had already gathered. How is it? Kiliakosm sovereign mythical tree. Kiliakosm sovereign Xianxia asked. It's indeed the Chaos Kiliakosm sovereign who retrieved the spacetime prison. So it's really him. It's the spacetime prison. Back then, we wanted to retrieve it too, but we had no way of doing so. We also want to comprehend the principle of spacetime, but it's extremely difficult. Even if we've seen the spacetime gate, it's still the case. We haven't comprehended anything. The 3 medium Kiliakosm sovereigns all shook their heads. Even though they were the esteemed medium Kiliakosm sovereigns and had even seen the spacetime gate and the spacetime imprint, so what? They still could not comprehend the principle of spacetime. Moreover, among so many life forms who had obtained the spacetime gate and the spacetime imprint, Lin Feng was the only one who could comprehend the principle of spacetime in the end. Hence, comprehending the principle of spacetime could not be forced. Will he come? Kiliakosm sovereign Xianxia asked. Perhaps, perhaps not. However, with his personality, he would probably come. Moreover, we still have some good things that we haven't shared with him yet, Kiliakosm sovereign mythical tree said with a smile. The other 2 medium Kiliakosm sovereigns also knew about the good things he mentioned. There was only one good thing the 3 medium Kiliakosm sovereigns had, and that was experience, the experience of becoming medium Kiliakosm sovereigns. There was naturally no need for any experience for surviving the 9th epical cataclysm. However, the metamorphosis of a small Kiliakosm into a medium Kiliakosm was the top secret and the most precious information. The 3 medium Kiliakosm sovereigns naturally would not impart it lightly. Huh? He's already here. Suddenly, ripples appeared in the void, and right on the heels of that, Lin Feng's figure appeared in the void. Swoosh! Lin Feng swept his gaze over and realized that the 3 medium Kiliakosm sovereigns were all here. He also bowed respectfully and said, Greetings, Kiliakosm sovereigns. Chaos Kiliakosm sovereign. There's no need to stand on ceremony. You're the strongest person among small Kiliakosm sovereigns now. You even have a high chance of becoming the 4th medium Kiliakosm sovereign in the future. Kiliakosm sovereign Xianxia said with a smile. However, Lin Feng did not dare to take it as the truth. Be it being the strongest person among small Kiliakosm sovereigns, or candidate to the medium Kiliakosm sovereign, if he did not become a medium Kiliakosm sovereign, it would ultimately be for naught. Kiliakosm sovereigns, what are your orders? When Lin Feng saw the 3 medium Kiliakosm sovereigns gathered, his heart skipped a beat. He knew that this matter was definitely not simple. However, he was only a small Kiliakosm sovereign. How could he help the 3 medium Kiliakosm sovereigns? Chaos Kiliakosm sovereign, I told you last time that medium Kiliakosm sovereigns like us are only the rulers of the medium Kiliakosm, but not the rulers of the entire void. Didn't you want to see the void life forms? Now's your chance. Void life forms? Lin Feng was also curious. He had actually seen void lifeforms before, but clearly the void lifeforms he saw were different from the void lifeforms that Kiliakosm sovereign mythical tree had mentioned. Most importantly, their strength was worlds apart. That's right, they're void lifeforms comparable to medium Kiliakosm sovereigns. In fact, we might even need the help of the Chaos Kiliakosm sovereign later. Kiliakosm sovereign mythical tree mentioned help repeatedly. Clearly, this matter was rather serious, even so serious that even the three medium Kiliakosm sovereigns were not confident that they could resolve it. Hence, they roped Lin Feng in. Even the three medium Kiliakosm sovereigns are not confident. I'm just a small Kiliakosm sovereign. Lin Feng did not finish speaking, but the meaning was obvious. Chaos Kiliakosm sovereign, wait for a while. You're not the only 8 Cataclysm Kiliakosm sovereign. Lin Feng was a little surprised, but the 3 medium Kiliakosm sovereigns had no intention of speaking again. Lin Feng could only suppress the doubts in his heart and continue waiting. 1 day, 2 days, 3 days. The time of the Kiliakosm sovereigns was calculated in 10,000 years. A few days was like a nap. It might pass in the blink of an eye. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Soon, dozens of streams of light flew over from the void one after another. These streams of light were all heading towards Lin Feng and the others. The stream of light stopped, revealing figures. Among them were 3 figures who could be considered old acquaintances with Lin Feng. They were Kiliakosm Sovereign Dark Chasm and the others. They're all 8 Cataclysm Kiliakosm sovereigns? Lin Feng was shocked. He could also tell that the Kiliakosm sovereigns who came here this time were all 8 Cataclysm Kiliakosm sovereigns. There was not even a 7 Cataclysm Kiliakosm sovereign. Greetings, Your Majesties the Kiliakosm sovereigns. The 8 Cataclysm Kiliakosm sovereigns who had come to the void also bowed to the 3 medium Kiliakosm sovereigns one after another, but there was no surprise on their faces. Clearly, this was not the first time this had happened. Everyone is here? Then let's go. Kiliakosm Sovereign Mythical Tree opened his eyes and glanced at these 8 Cataclysm Kiliakosm sovereigns. They were all 8 Cataclysm Kiliakosm sovereigns. In the void, they naturally could not be like the medium Kiliakosm sovereigns, and could not compare to Lin Feng. They could not warp in the void. Hence, they could all only rely on their speed to fly over and were naturally slower. However, none of the 8 Cataclysm Kiliakosm sovereigns refused to come. Basically, all the 8 Cataclysm Kiliakosm sovereigns in the medium Kiliakosm had arrived. Hence, in a daze, Lin Feng set off with everyone and flew toward a certain direction in the void. Lin Feng did a rough count. Including himself, 31 8 Cataclysm Kiliakosm sovereigns had gathered this time. According to what the Kiliakosm Sovereign Mythical Tree had said previously, basically all the 8 Cataclysm Kiliakosm sovereigns would arrive. That meant that there were only 31 8 Cataclysm Kiliakosm sovereigns in the entire medium Kiliakosm now. Perhaps there were 1 or 2 in the depths of the void, where even medium Kiliakosm sovereigns could not inform them. However, overall, there were only about 30-odd 8 Cataclysm Kiliakosm sovereigns. About 30-odd 8 Cataclysm Kiliakosm sovereigns did not seem like many, but it had to be known that from the 7 Cataclysm onwards, the number of Kiliakosm sovereigns would decrease rapidly. There were only 31 8 Cataclysm Kiliakosm sovereigns. Behind them were countless ordinary Kiliakosm sovereigns. This was a pyramid-shaped distribution of power. In every epoch, many 8 Cataclysm Kiliakosm sovereigns would come into being. In every epoch, many 7 Cataclysm Kiliakosm sovereigns would also come into being. However, at the same time, in every epoch, many 8 Cataclysm Kiliakosm sovereigns would fall and be burned to ashes by the 9th epochal cataclysm, never to become medium Kiliakosm sovereigns. Lin Feng looked at these 8 Cataclysm Kiliakosm sovereigns. His expression was not relaxed, and was in fact slightly solemn. He also had some guesses. Something that could make 3 medium Kiliakosm sovereigns lead a team and gather many 8 Cataclysm Kiliakosm sovereigns could not be simple. Or rather, it was rather dangerous. For a moment, Lin Feng also began to be on guard. He possessed the principle of spacetime and was very difficult to kill, but that did not mean that he was really impossible to kill. After flying for more than 10 days, the 3 medium Kiliakosm sovereigns finally stopped. It's here. We've already sensed the aura of the void life form. Everyone scatter and search. We must find that void life form. Kiliakosm's sovereign mythical tree's voice was very stern, revealing infinite authority. The many 8 Cataclysm Kiliakosm sovereigns also accepted the order one after another. They dispersed with solemn expressions, as if they were already used to it and were all very familiar with it. Only Lin Feng was frowning, not knowing what was going on. Chaos Kiliacosm Sovereign, you don't have to search this time. Just stay by our side. Kiliacosm's sovereign mythical tree said to Lin Feng. Your Majesties, what's going on? It seems like we're looking for a void life form. Lin Feng had already seen some clues. That's right. We are looking for a void life form. However, it's not just one but numerous void life forms. You've just become an 8 Cataclysm Kiliacosm Sovereign. You should also shoulder your due responsibility. The reason why the vicinity of the medium Kiliacosm is so safe is that I and many 8 Cataclysm Kiliacosm Sovereigns will clean up some void life forms near the medium Kiliacosm. Lin Feng came to a realization. Actually, he already had a vague guess. No wonder those 8 Cataclysm Kiliacosm Sovereigns all seemed so familiar with it. It turned out that this was not the first time they had done such a thing. Is it relatively dangerous this time? There's indeed some danger, but it's still manageable. How many powerful void life forms that are comparable to medium Kiliacosm Sovereigns are there? We sense 2 of them. This can be considered to be a large-scale assault. However, there are also many other void life forms, so we need to mobilize 8 Cataclysm Kiliacosm Sovereigns like you. As for those below the 8 Cataclysm, participating in such a battle is tantamount to striking a rock with an egg. It's completely useless. All Kiliacosm Sovereigns above the 8 Cataclysm have to become the barrier of the medium Kiliacosm. Lin Feng understood now. Actually, this was also a kind of exchange. The medium Kiliacosm Sovereigns guaranteed the safety of the 8 Cataclysm Kiliacosm Sovereign. Even if the 8 Cataclysm Kiliacosm Sovereigns did not have sufficient small Kiliacosm origin, the medium Kiliacosm Sovereign would provide aid. However, the 8 Cataclysm Kiliacosm Sovereigns still had to pay a price. Among them, sometimes the medium Kiliacosm Sovereign would not actually attack the void lifeforms. The 8 Cataclysm Kiliacosm Sovereigns were the true main force. 2 void lifeforms comparable to medium Kiliacosm Sovereigns are actually already very surprising. In the past 3 epochs, of all the void lifeforms that approached the medium Kiliacosm, the strongest we've encountered was only one lifeform comparable to the medium Kiliacosm Sovereign. Hence, there might be a tough battle this time. Kiliacosm Sovereign mythical tree's expression was very solemn. The medium Kiliacosm Sovereigns were only the rulers of the medium Kiliacosm, not the rulers of the void. This was vividly reflected in these void lifeforms. Lin Feng also radiated his mental power. Now that he had become an 8 Cataclysm Kiliacosm Sovereign, his mental power was also unparalleled and massive to the extreme. Hence, it could radiate a very wide range. However, while Lin Feng's mental power radiated a very wide range, the void was even wider, stretching as far as he could see. Even the medium Kiliacosm was only one among many in the vast void, and was very insignificant. Days passed. In the blink of an eye, a month had passed. A month was naturally not worth mentioning to Kiliacosm Sovereigns. Even in the void, a month was actually not a long time. But suddenly, Kiliacosm Sovereign Xianxia seemed to have received a message. His expression changed, and he said in a low voice, "Traces of a void life form have been discovered by Kiliacosm Sovereign Flora. Leave." Almost immediately, the 3 medium Kiliacosm Sovereigns led Lin Feng and warped directly in the direction of Kiliacosm Sovereign Flora. At the same time, the 3 medium Kiliacosm Sovereigns also transmitted this information to all the 8 Cataclysm Kiliacosm Sovereigns in the void. Lin Feng realized that the medium Kiliacosm Sovereigns could actually warp spacetime. That's right, warping spacetime. He had never discovered it before, but now he had. It had to be known that Lin Feng had grasped the principle of spacetime. He knew very well that the 3 medium Kiliacosm Sovereigns had definitely not grasped the principle of spacetime, but how could they warp spacetime? They could even warp through the void at will. However, now was not the time to ask this question. On the other hand, Lin Feng had some vague guesses. Kiliacosm Sovereign Mythical Tree had once mentioned that the medium Kiliacosm Sovereigns had already begun to dabble in spacetime. Perhaps they had not mastered the principle of spacetime, but it was impossible for them to have gained nothing from dabbling in spacetime. Perhaps with some gains it was enough for them to warp spacetime. Swoosh! The three of them warped to the location designated by Kiliakosm Sovereign Flora almost immediately. Lin Feng immediately sensed that there was a terrifying void life form in the distance. It was a terrifying beast he had never heard of or seen before. The aura emitted by its body made even his heart palpitate. Humph! It's indeed here. Kiliakosm Sovereign Mythical Tree snorted coldly. With a wave of his hand, he immediately enveloped Kiliakosm Sovereign Flora and brought her to his side. Kiliakosm Sovereign Flora finally heaved a sigh of relief. She had indeed discovered the void life form, but it had also discovered her at the same time, so she was hunted down. If the three medium Kiliakosm sovereigns had not arrived quickly enough, she would probably have been devoured by the void life form. Kiliakosm Sovereign Flora also saw Lin Feng and nodded in greeting. At this moment, Lin Feng did not pay attention to Kiliakosm Sovereign Flora, because all his attention was already attracted by the void life form in the distance. That void life form was like a huge fish. Its entire body was covered in black scales, and it had countless tentacles. Its entire body was like a huge sphere that stretched across the void, emitting a sinister, cold, and dangerous aura. This is a void life form. That's right. What kind of void life form is this? I'm not sure. There are more than billions of void life forms in the vast void. Although we've also ventured deep into the void before, we've seen too few void life forms after all. It's impossible for us to know all the void species. Chaos Kiliakosm Sovereign, you can give it a try and measure the strength of these void life forms. According to the aura detected, this void life form should be at about the same realm as an 8 Cataclysm Kiliakosm Sovereign. However, Chaos Kiliakosm Sovereign, don't use your core power, let alone kill it. There's an even more terrifying entity behind it. Unless absolutely necessary, it's not advisable to start a war rashly. Lin Feng's heart skipped a beat at Kiliakosm Sovereign Mythical Tree's words. This was indeed the first time he had seen such a powerful void life form. In the past, the void life forms he had seen might just be some that had slipped through the net. Or perhaps they were just some void life forms that the three medium Kiliakosm sovereigns had reared on purpose. They were not worth mentioning at all. But now, the void life form in front of him was a genuine, mysterious, powerful, and dangerous void life form that came from the depths of the void. All right, I'll give it a try and test the abilities of these void life forms. Lin Feng was not afraid. He prepared to go up directly and fight with this void life form. At this moment, Kiliakosm Sovereign Flora said, Chaos Kiliakosm Sovereign. Although this void life form is not fast, its defense is astonishing, and its strength is powerful. You have to be careful. Lin Feng glanced at the Kiliakosm Sovereign Flora. He knew that Kiliakosm Sovereign Flora was taking the initiative to express goodwill to him because of what happened in the Beehive Forbidden Zone previously. Lin Feng nodded as well, signaling that their conflict in the Beehive Forbidden Zone could be considered over. Swoosh! Lin Feng took a stride forward, and it was as if he had warped billions of miles in an instant. He quickly approached the void life form. Gore! The void life form naturally sensed it as well. They were all powerful void life forms. In terms of intelligence, they were not much inferior to the Kiliakosm sovereigns. Hence, immediately, the countless tentacles on the void life form's body blotted out everything as they swept towards Lin Feng. These tentacles carried tremendous power. Even the 8 Cataclysm Kiliakosm sovereigns were shocked. Kiliakosm Sovereign Flora had briefly come into contact with this void life form just now. She had focused on fleeing, but it was also indescribably difficult. This void life form was definitely not something an ordinary 8 Cataclysm Kiliakosm sovereign could deal with. At this moment, some 8 Cataclysm Kiliakosm sovereigns had already arrived. All of them were very surprised to see Lin Feng attack. The three of them, Kiliakosm Sovereign Flora, Kiliakosm Sovereign Dark Chasm, and Kiliakosm Sovereign Skeleton, had surrounded and attacked Lin Feng in the Beehive Forbidden Zone. In the end, Lin Feng survived the 8th Epical Cataclysm and became an 8 Cataclysm Kiliakosm Sovereign. This was already a joke. Many 8 Cataclysm Kiliacosm sovereigns mocked the 3 8 Cataclysm Kiliacosm sovereigns behind their backs. But now they could finally see how strong the Chaos Kiliacosm sovereign, who had tricked the 3 8 Cataclysm Kiliacosm sovereigns, was. I wonder if he can hold out? Those void life forms in the past were not simple. Moreover, even Kiliacosm sovereign flora was far from its match. The Chaos Kiliacosm sovereign has mastered the principle of spacetime. Apart from the principle of spacetime, I'm afraid even the Chaos Kiliacosm sovereign is not a match for this void lifeform. He's looking for trouble himself. Dealing with a void lifeform alone? He simply has a death wish. These 8 Cataclysm Kiliacosm sovereigns knew very well how difficult void lifeforms were to deal with. An 8 Cataclysm Kiliacosm sovereign alone would even be crushed by a void lifeform at the same level. Of course, there was naturally a unique reason why the Kiliacosm sovereigns could occupy a place in the vast void. Although the Kiliacosm sovereigns might not be comparable to these void lifeforms in terms of raw strength, they were definitely one of the most difficult to deal with. Kiliacosm sovereigns were very difficult to kill. Even if their small Kiliacosm was torn apart, as long as there was small Kiliacosm origin, unless one could completely crush the small Kiliacosm in an instant, it was impossible to kill a Kiliacosm sovereign. This was also the core method of survival for the Kiliacosm sovereigns. In the past, when dealing with void lifeforms, the 8 Cataclysm Kiliacosm sovereigns would attack together in 2s and 3s. Only then could they contend with or kill a void lifeform at the same level. In a one-on-one battle, most of them would be at a disadvantage, and would even wind up in a rather sorry state. Good one. Small Kiliacosm. At this moment, Lin Feng's entire focus was on the void lifeform in front of him. Why would he care about the discussions of the other Kiliacosm sovereigns? When he saw the dense tentacles of the void lifeform sweeping over like whips, Lin Feng knew that he could not dodge. His surroundings were sealed by the tentacles unless he retreated. However, he was here to test the capability of the void lifeform. If he just retreated, it would be meaningless. Hence, Lin Feng simply mobilized the small Kiliacosm and clashed hard with it. How powerful was Lin Feng's small Kiliacosm? His foundation had always been very strong. Then, he went from a 1 Cataclysm Kiliacosm sovereign to the current 8 Cataclysm Kiliacosm sovereign step by step. Although it seemed like Lin Feng's cultivation speed was very fast, and the time he spent cultivating was very short, in reality, Lin Feng took every step very steadily. His foundation was incomparably stable, even more stable than other Kiliacosm sovereigns. Having come all the way to the level of an 8 Cataclysm Kiliacosm sovereign, Lin Feng's small Kiliacosm far surpassed the other 8 Cataclysm Kiliacosm sovereigns in terms of size and defense. Just by relying on the small Kiliacosm alone, Lin Feng was also the undisputed number 1 Kiliacosm sovereign in the medium Kiliacosm. Boom! As Lin Feng mobilized the small Kiliacosm, it immediately collided fiercely with the countless tentacles of the void lifeform. Lin Feng used almost all his strength and unleashed all the power in his small Kiliacosm. Apart from the principle of spacetime and the spacetime prison, Lin Feng used almost all his strength. He could be considered to have gone all out. The moment his small Kiliacosm collided fiercely with the tentacles of the void lifeform, Lin Feng's entire body shook. He sensed that the tentacles of the void lifeform seemed to emit a strange power that could instantly tear apart his small Kiliacosm. Crack! Lin Feng's small Kiliacosm shattered with a bang. However, in the next moment, the void lifeform's entire body shook, and it even let out a wail. Its massive body and all its tentacles were actually instantly severed the moment they collided with Lin Feng. Then, the terrifying force sent the void lifeform flying. This scene stunned all the Kiliacosm sovereigns. Even the expressions of the 3 medium Kiliacosm sovereigns froze slightly. Their original intention was to show Lin Feng how difficult void lifeforms were to deal with. But now, Lin Feng had sent the void lifeform flying with a single strike and even severely injured it. His performance could almost be considered crushing. Could it be that the void lifeform this time was very weak? However, Lin Feng was equally shocked. Just that strike just now had already made him feel the danger of death. If those tentacles were any stronger, They could even tear his small chiliocosm into pieces. Of course, the prerequisite was that there was no small chiliocosm origin. Even so, that strike just now had cost Lin Feng a large amount of small chiliocosm origin to restore the small chiliocosm. After this battle, Lin Feng also had a direct understanding of these void lifeforms. He absolutely could not underestimate them. Chaos Chiliocosm Sovereign, come back. Suddenly, the voice of the Chiliocosm Sovereign mythical tree sounded. At the same time, Lin Feng also saw many void lifeforms appear in the distance. Two of them sent chills down even Lin Feng's spine.